comparing a GT to an awesome, rare Chevy 350. What's the deal, right?
Yeah, what's going on here? Right.
LJJR's got the answer. They are plumb dumb. So, there you go.
Okay.
That's why we did it. Hello, welcome to the Brake Check Show, episode 10. I'm Craig.
I'm Brian.
And today we've got some fun stuff to talk about. We've got a Hyundai Kona.
Oh, boy.
In gray, Brian.
Wait.
Oh,
flat gray panels on gray paint?
Yes.
Almost monochromatic.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and we also have a Vet. We'll talk about that.
That too.
So,
yeah.
We also have some fun car news coming up. The Mazda MX-30, Return of the Rotary, and the 2022 Honda Civic. Looks like a small Accord. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then a segment we haven't done in a little while, but fun with comments. We have the best listeners and viewers, and oh man, they give us such good feedback. So we got some fun ones there. So, but first, Brian, I would like to talk about the Hyundai Kona. I'm going to let you talk more about the Vet.
Okay.
The Hyundai Kona. We had it.
We did.
Okay, why don't you talk about the Vet now? Go ahead and talk about the Vet.
Okay, let's actually hit on the Kona real quick. There's only one thing I want to say.
Oh, we're really going to talk about it. Okay.
Yeah, no, really. There's only one thing I want to say.
Okay.
And you fixed me on it, and it took me 3 days to figure out what was going on. You actually gave me an aha moment because I was puzzled. Okay, so we have driven the Kia Seltos, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
And which is its optical twin. And I really like the Seltos. You like the Seltos too. In fact, that's a car we keep going back on and going, how is that thing like? It was like a hot hatch more than a crossover. How is it so fun, right?
It's impressive.
Right. And so then we get the press list for the week and we go, man, we're getting a C8 Vet, which is cool. And we're getting a freaking Kona, which is like the Seltos. I'm going, this is going to be awesome. So we get the Kona and I drive it. And I kind of just don't know what's going on. I'm not meshing with it. There's no magic. There's no mojo. I don't know what's going on.
Where's all the magic that was in the Seltos? It's not there.
Right. What the hell happened? It's the same engine, transmission, powertrain's the same. You know, all these things that should work. It should be a good formula. And then on our, I think the third day, you and I have our recap towards the end of the day, and you go, hey, you do know that that's not the Seltos. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? You go, no. It's a Tucson that they've shortened down.
Yeah.
And then I went, thank God, because this thing has been nothing like the Seltos.
Yeah.
It's a good car. In fact, I would recommend it for, actually, our mom would probably love that car. It'd be great for her. But it's not the fun that the Seltos was to drive. So
absolutely.
Just an interesting thing to think about in terms of dynamics and how handling makes such a big difference.
It is interesting, and that was one of those tidbits that was really hard to find because a lot of the interwebs, look, Wiki's usually a good resource, but
they had it wrong.
They had it wrong on this. You had to dig for this thing, and it makes more sense once you do figure this out. Now, do they share some components and architecture? I'm sure they do.
Sure.
So I'm sure there's some of the stuff that's the same, but it is a different platform, which apparently does make a difference. The other thing I think is interesting. And I remember Kia trying to do this a while back, trying to differentiate themselves a little more from Hyundai. So it's a little confusing because most car manufacturers, like GM, you have your sport or luxury or just middle of the road, right?
Right.
You got Ford and Lincoln. You know, you used to have Chrysler, and then you had Dodge, a sport and more middle of the road. Hyundai and Kia never. What is it? Like they seem like they're the same. So
yeah, they're sisters. It's one might be a little more mature or the older,
right?
And that's actually I was thinking about this today because we also have another Kia Hyundai product in the garage right now, and I keep thinking back on, you take the same platform, so the Sonata and the K5 are the same bones underneath, and share powertrains and that kind of stuff. And we've reviewed both, and I keep thinking back on them and going, the Kia is like the younger, maybe sportier sister or brother. And the Sonata, while being the same car from the same family and using the same ingredients, is like a year older or two, right? Like it may have just graduated college, whereas the Kia is still in college. And so, it might be a little more luxurious and a little less sporty in terms of its appearance, but really it's the same thing. So it's interesting.
And that's what I was going to touch on, is that Kia made a concerted effort. Look, we're going to be the sporty version. We're going to be the sporty people in the lineup. And
Right.
Hyundai's going to be a little more mature. And they actually turned it into Genesis, and that spun off and became its own complete luxurious thing. But Hyundai is still the little more, I think you nailed it, a little more mature. Not necessarily more luxurious, but yeah, also probably a little more luxurious, although there's just as luxurious Kias that share platform. So it's weird.
It's peculiar because it's not 1-to-1, right? Like the Seltos and the Kona are examples of, the Kona doesn't feel more luxurious than the Seltos.
No, but it's looks more mature.
Yes, it does.
Less polarizing looks, and the Kia is more sporty.
Yeah. So there you go. I guess that's it.
Yeah, but then you get things like the Veloster and the Hyundai and the Inline, and it's like, what's happening? So it's really confusing. But generally speaking, that is the case. You get all the GTs in the Kia. So you get the Kia K5 GT. You get the Kia Forte GT.
And the Stinger. And it's GT.
And then you get Stinger.
1 and 2.
Yeah, right. So
it's interesting.
Anyways, that's that. So in all seriousness, we also had, so much fun.
In the Kona?
No.
Oh.
We're moving on to the other car now.
Okay.
The C8 in Sebring Orange, which is just an amazing, beautiful color. I shouldn't say beautiful. An amazing, fun color is what. Maybe that's a better description.
But but the quality of it was good. It seemed like when the sun hit it, it changed completely, and it just popped. And even when it was dirty, we got to admit, we both got this car dusty. We had it on dirt roads.
Yeah.
We had it on paved. We had it on anything you can imagine minus pure mud. We had it on it. And so, look, by the time I got it back from you, it was filthy. And then by the time I was done driving, it was even dirtier. So we had to go film it last minute before we turned the car back over because we did so much with it that we had to go wash the thing. And all of a sudden I went, whoa, this is orange. This is great. How awesome.
No, so we were, of course, we were so excited when we saw this on the list. We were getting it and like, oh my goodness. And, this car, when it was announced, it was going to be mid-engine, just set the world on fire, turned everything on its ear, the automotive world. And then it came out and it was just as good as it looked and what everybody talked about. People are using, other podcasts, other shows, talk about currency units and C8 units.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the value of it.
One monetary Corvette unit.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Todd and Paul.
And
we got it. And so is it going to live up to these expectations? Because usually when you and I get a car and there's this high expectation, we drive it and we're just, it's like the movie thing. We're like, well, it's not that great.
Right.
But,
yeah.
So what happened to us in this car? What happened to you? What happened to both of us in this car when we got it? Did it live up to that? Where'd we end up?
So I want to preface this with something that we've realized recently between the two of us, or you've realized between the two of us. It's that when I first get in a car, and when you first get in a car, we're looking for opposite things. Yes. And then by the end of the week, when we've swapped cars and we've done our whole full analysis, we end up looking for what the other person was looking for initially, and we swap. And then we kind of, when it all settles, we end up in a very similar realm with a often similar result, not always, but often similar result or consensus on whether we can disagree about aspects, but we agree about objectives in the car, right? Mm-hmm. So things like that. First thing I look for in a car is, and you dubbed this, can you hoon it? And that doesn't mean that it's a sporty car or it's a driver's car or a muscle car or a family sedan or a crossover or a minivan. Can you hoon it? So I start there. Is it any fun to drive is what I call it. And
for example, hang on real quick. For example, for the audience, you were driving a different press car today. We won't mention it because we're going to talk about it on another podcast. But it's front-wheel drive, and it sounded like, based on the tire squealing, that you thought maybe it was a rear-wheel drive Mustang.
Well,
and you were just giggling and laughing. Again, you were hooning it. And so I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, he's going to like this one. So anyways, go ahead.
Look, speaking of Mustangs, it was more fun than a Mach-E. I can tell you that.
Okay,
we'll touch on that later. Anyways, so I look at, anything can be fun if you drive it in a certain manner. And so when we first got the Vet, and by the way, when you first get in a car, you're looking for, what is it trying to be? Is it good at being that? Yes. And then by the end of the week, we've flopped roles and you've gone, man, this is fun to drive. The Seltos is a prime example. You did not like the Seltos at first. And I was like, this thing's a hoot. It's a DSG. It's got a small little turbo. It's light. It doesn't do burnouts, but it's fun. Like it pulls out of corners and things like that. And then by the end of the week, I went, this is a pretty good car, but it's not the biggest thing, but it's still really pretty good. And you're like, this is a hoot. I love this thing. So we kind of, we flip-flop, right?
Mm-hmm.
The vet was no different. So I get in the vet. It's delivered here. The neighbors think we're drug dealers immediately, because the company that brings it delivers it in a black Yukon Denali, and everyone's dressed in black, and they drop the car.
That's not helping.
It's not helping anything, and they're wiping it. It looks like they're taking fingerprints off of it, and it's really for COVID. But it's bizarre. So the neighbors still wonder what we do, and I always tell them we test cars from manufacturers, and that just sounds even more ominous. They don't know what that means. And anyways, moral of the story is the car shows up. I drive it for 2 miles and then immediately give it to you. And by the way, it is drizzling when I drove it, so it had no grip, or less grip, not no grip. And then hand it off to you. And my first impression was, what is that fake engine noise? Is it fake engine noise because it sounds and feels like it? I'm already disoriented because I hear a small block truck engine behind me, which is really weird. You don't expect that at all. And it looks incredible. And that was kind of my initial take, is this looks, look, I know that the one we drove was $82,000 as equipped, but it starts at 60. Good luck finding one for 60 and the low volume and production they have right now, but it can be done. And I thought to myself, I'm perplexed. Let's hand it off to you. And I had planned a trip at the end of the week down into South Texas and back up. So you got the first stab at it. I got the Kona. So I'm going to get into the trip, and then we'll have you wrap up your opinion on it, Craig. Sure. So my wife and I take it down. We actually start Friday morning at a Lexus event in North Dallas, and then we shoot down to Wimberley, Texas, which is 3 to 4 hours down there. And immediately, even at this press event we were at, other media members and other manufacturer members that happened to be there as well were very curious about the vet, and it started discussions. It was very interesting to do that. So it's not often that you take a car around media members and they want to talk about it, because everyone's already driven everything and that kind of stuff. So then we head down, and the first thing I noticed was trunk space was not a problem at all.
Right.
There's a trunk in the front, and the front didn't look that big, but then you start filling it up and you go, oh, I can fit like 2 more things in here. And you put those in there and you go, I can get 1 more thing in here. And you get the 1 more thing in there and you go, there's a lot going, like that's 3 times I thought that would hold. Like I thought it would hold a pillow, and it held like a full bedspread if you wanted to, and 4 pillows. Like it was great. And then go
both way more functional than you expect.
Absolutely. And if for something that looks like that's a big deal. And in fact, we didn't talk about this in the review that much. That's a huge practicality aspect. And Corvette's always been good at that because they're hatchback design. They've always had the golf clubs figured out, which they still do. You can get 2 golf bags in the actual trunk, which is good. So we brought camera gear. We brought our overnight gear, all that kind of stuff, our usual things. And something I did learn was that the trunk is kind of warm because it's close to the engine. So don't put chocolate back there or insulin. Those won't do very well. And the next thing I figured out was that people were recognizing this thing and going, one of 2 things happen. One, does it have a V12 or is it Italian? Or, I can't believe that's the vet. It looks amazing. Some people knew exactly what it was and they wanted to come talk about it. Every time I got gas, I either had people asking questions, or gas station attendants were leaving their cashier stand, running outside to get a picture. That actually happened. My wife had gone to the store to get some water, and she comes out, and this attendant's taking pictures and asking me questions. She had to wait for the guy to be done before she'd get in the car, kind of deal. I had other moments where we would get gas, and a family in a Yukon pulled around and waited for us to drive off to film us driving off, which was, we were happy to oblige and give them some exhaust noises, which was fine. But that kind of thing happened everywhere. And usually when we have flashy cars, and Craig, I think you'll agree, we kind of get scolded. People are kind of like, get that out of my town, or why is that noisy? Or somehow they're visually or audibly offended. A bright orange vet to me told me I've got to be on good behavior because people are going to be on high alert with this thing. And turns out they were on high alert, and everyone loved it. Everyone acted like, and we mentioned this in the review, they either thought, wow, that's a cool sports car, this goofy bastard's driving it. He must, if he can have it, I've got a chance too in life. That was probably part of it. And the other part of it is those that recognize the vet emblem went, oh, wait, that's right. America did this. We did this.
Yes.
And you coined it best. A sense of pride just would like swell up in people. And that was really fascinating. Beyond that, it was a great Grand Tour. You predicted that and you warned me of that ahead of time. Absolutely right. Granted, I'm on the very top edge of height restriction in the car. It was comfortable to drive 4 hours straight. I didn't have any back problems, anything like that. It was awesome. It's pretty quiet. The Civic 8-speed is... Look, I'm the manual maniac of most people, and I never once thought this needs a manual. I mean, and I really expected myself to go, it's good, but I wish it was manual. And while I do still, I'm always going to wish it's a manual. I never once thought it while I was driving. The whole time I thought, this is incredible, the entire time.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. 100% agree on the manual part. I mean, I'm right there with you. Almost every time we get a car that is like that and is automatic only, all we say is, gosh, why isn't this a manual?
Right.
I drove that car half the week, several days, and never once thought about a manual in that sucker. And by the way, Chevy made the right decision not to put a manual in there because no one will care. No one was buying them anyways, as much as you and I and maybe 5 other people complain. We're not buying those. And so it was the right business move. Can't blame them. Ferrari's doing the same thing. Everybody else doing the same thing. Who cares? Just get over it.
And the flip side of that, Craig, is that thing goes 0 to 60 in 2.9 is the official number.
We got in 2.8.
We got in 2.8 on the street, not prep surface.
Yes.
Didn't clean the tires off, no burnouts ahead of time.
Yep.
It wasn't particularly warm. They weren't particularly sticky. And I got the number multiple times. In fact, one time I got it with a co-pilot in the car. And it's bonkers, man. And the reality is, and here's where I wish it was a manual comes in, but it's totally irrelevant. It's a matter of that car will do 2.8, 2.9 to 60, whether I'm in it or not. It doesn't care who's behind the seat.
Yeah.
Whereas a Boss 302 Mustang or something else with a manual trans, it can vary wildly based on who's driving. Right. And so the man and machine that you get from a Miata, you don't really get that from the vet.
No, that's true.
But I also just don't care because it's so phenomenal.
It's
And this is the base Corvette. This is not a Z06. It's not a ZR1. It's an LT2, which is literally the truck engine that they've just done really well at, and direct injection and VVT and things like that. And just a really good trans. In fact, I think 0 to let's call it 13 miles an hour. It's the fastest thing I've driven, modified or otherwise. And then above 13, say up to 15, 16, it starts to feel less fast than some competition that we've driven. But that out of the hole is bonkers.
It's incredible.
Completely bonkers.
Faster than any of the electric cars we've played with. So,
great point. Great point. Yep, absolutely.
So my time in it, I didn't take it on any trips, but I did drive it to work and back several days. And same exact story. We talked about this in the video too. It should have a cape attached to it because it's a superhero.
Oh man,
everybody, you're right. We'll drive flashy cars that some of these we get from some of the manufacturers, and we get some what is that, or a little annoyed looks, or maybe some mild curiosity. This just gathered a crowd all the time,
everywhere. Yeah,
and for a car that, relatively speaking, doesn't cost that much, especially dollar per looks factor. It's got to be the highest value on the planet, okay?
100%. 100%.
I don't know how you would beat it. The most amazing thing to me was the comfort. That car should not be comfortable. And it's unbelievably comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's where I went to the GT part. Like, this is a good GT car. I could drive across the country in this and not be fatigued. Cars like that are supposed to fatigue you, and it didn't. And that's where leads me to the only downside is because of that lack of fatigue, there's a little bit of a disconnected part to it. And some of that's the manual and automatic thing is a factor. Some of it's just, it's so isolated. It's actually I'll be honest, Chevy, you did too good a job making a car.
Yeah.
This is what happens to
Yeah.
a lot of manufacturers. Hey, you did too good. Now I can't feel anything because there's no NVH. And so and there is some, but
that's where
what
things
you
like
expect in
that.
that car, it's low. So
Right. And that's where things like that speaker bringing sound in, while it's disconcerting, there's two things you can do. You can take the top off and you hear the real exhaust at a higher volume, and then it becomes irrelevant immediately. And then at that same time, you realize that the sound that is being pumped in is not just genuine, right? It's not a four-banger that's putting out a V6 or V8
at least
sound.
it matches.
It matches, right? And so you go, okay, this is a tool to make me feel more connected. While it's not totally convincing. I appreciate the effort. And look, you brought up a great point. There's an NVH factor that you and I both appreciate, right? On that Grand Tour, I was so happy this wasn't a BRZ or an FRS, right? I didn't have any fatigue or any buzzing going on. It was incredibly smooth. Look, anyone can drive that thing and drive it fast, or just drive it and enjoy the looks, because it looks remarkable. Granted, you brought up some angles that you don't like, and that is a subjective thing. I stand by my very pretentious comment of objectively, it looks phenomenal. You can pick it apart, but as a thing for 60,000, there's such a cohesive design, and it works better in person than online. I was really impressed by that immediately.
Absolutely. And I think we summed it up well in the video. Please go check that out if you haven't already. It's a supercar that's not exotic, and I think that nails it, and I think it summarizes it well. So. Anyways, we had a lot of fun on that. Looking forward to whatever supermodel they make next out of that platform is going to be impressive. Z06, whatever they end up doing, 01, it's going to be amazing. So we'll see what they do.
Look, if this is the base, it's going to be bonkers. The next one up.
I hate to end it on a sour note, but before we get into the new cars, I did sadly see some rumors that the C9 that they're working on next is going to be front engine again.
Can I jump in here and put a caveat in there that most of those came out on April Fools? I'm just holding my breath if that's not true. So we'll see. It's possible. I don't know why they would at this point.
It doesn't make any sense. I'm calling a little BS too. So we'll see. Stay tuned for that. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. Things we do know. Cars coming out. Brian, I'm gonna kick it off with the Mazda's bringing the Rotary back.
Okay. I'm gonna hold my breath and let you pitch your pitch, and then we'll discuss at the end, because I've already got some preconceived notions.
Probably not the best preconceived notions with a Rotary, I'm guessing.
We'll see.
So this is coming in not exactly what you would expect with the Rotary. Last time we saw the Rotary was in the RX-8. Good news right now, Brian, you can get RX-8s cheap.
Super
Bad
cheap.
news is, still need a bunch of rotary engines to go with it, because you're going to have to replace them every, 50,000 miles, something like that.
Yeah, just get. Don't they come with a couple of spares? I thought that.
Look. Supposedly, it's one of the easier engine swaps. Makes sense, but
sure.
If you want practice at engine swaps, there you go. Okay. But they are pretty cool cars though. When they're running right, they're pretty cool.
They're awesome.
So,
yeah.
Okay. This is what they're calling it the Mazda MX-30. Which is interesting they use the MX in this, because that's usually only been reserved for the Miata, the MX-5. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I'm really perplexed by that. Yeah.
I don't know why this isn't why is this not a CX-15 or CX-30E or something? I don't.
Or why not
really
just
understand.
like CX Triangle? Isn't that or CX Dorito or whatever the Rotary nomenclature
I don't understand.
is.
Yeah, I don't understand the nomenclature here. And here's why we're confused about it. Probably should have said this. It's going to be an SUV, an electric, their first electric crossover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, CUV. It's going to be a small one. It's a pretty small car. So think CX-30. It may be a tad smaller, actually. So that's kind of where we're landing. Interesting things about it. Here's what we do know. Currently, Mazda doesn't have any hybrid option. Not only do they not have an electric car, they don't even have a hybrid.
Right.
Which is really interesting, because Mazda's always made really weird engines. And in true Mazda fashion, here we go. Here's an EV. But it's not really an EV, because EVs are just, electric vehicles are usually just electric. No, we're going to make it a plug-in electric vehicle, which means it's going to have a gas motor, but it's still technically an electric vehicle, because the motor is going to be which is going to be a rotary motor. Doesn't power any wheels. It just charges the battery, just like the BMW i3, which is technically an electric.
Or the
with
Volt
a range
or the
extender.
Bolt.
It's a range extender. Yeah.
Okay.
So the rotary engine just powers the battery. That's it.
So in terms of powertrain, it is just an electric motor, and then to the hubs, or if they're using transmission, I doubt they are. And so the gasoline-powered component is simply to generate electricity for the electric motor.
That is correct. So
Okay.
So this thing debuted in 2019, officially announced it's coming to the U.S., so we know about it now. They actually have some good pictures of it, interior shots.
It looks pretty cool.
It looks pretty. I think it looks cool. They kind of squared it off a little bit. Which thinks it looks like that. I like that. I think it looks cool. It's gonna have a front-wheel drive electric motor that makes 144 horsepower, 200 pound-feet of torque. So
Okay.
we'll see. It's powered by a 35.5 kilowatt hour battery, which is pretty small. The smallest one you can get in the Mach-E, which I think we drove the 88 one.
Yeah.
The smallest you can get in the Mach-E is a 68. So pretty small battery.
Well, but hang on, the Mach-E doesn't have a generator on board, so it really changes the formula completely when you keep a gas component or generator component associated with it. Then it changes everything.
Right, and so the best guess right now. I mean, these are all just guesses. People are guessing about 100-mile range on electric only before that rotary would kick in and start charging the battery. So
again, for an urban vehicle, that's a good number, right? Because if you're doing urban stop and go, you're not going to hit 100 miles in a day. You might go several days before you hit that. So that's a viable thing.
It's going to be interesting, that rotary engine, because one of the things rotaries are not known for is fuel efficiency. What they are known for is smoothness and small packaging.
Yeah.
So I get that part of the rotary, because that's what you want if it's powering the electric. You don't want to feel the gas part of it. You just want the power of the battery, and let's go. And the small packaging part I get. But it's never been efficient, so I'm surprised to see if they figured that out. That'll be interesting. One of the claims is, because it's always just charging the battery and never actually driving the wheels, is that the fun part about electric cars, where you get that quick sensation, that instant on feel,
instant torque. Yeah,
you'll always have that in this. It doesn't really go away, so that'll be interesting. So anyways, that's what we know.
Okay, so can I chime in with just some questions?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be overly critical here, but so in terms of powertrain, you talked about having instant torque and that kind of stuff. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there is a plug-in hybrid version of the Volt. I'm assuming the Bolt carried this on as well, but when the Volt was in its second generation, there was a version that was like that, where it had an electric motor under the hood and then a gas engine to charge that motor if you ran out of electricity. So it acted in the same way. You never had a moment where petroleum-powered engine was driving the wheel itself.
That's my understanding. I'm not sure if there was a hybrid function where it did drive the the wheels a tad. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I'm not an expert on that by any means. I don't even want to. We'll leave that there, because I think Toyota had a version that was like what you just described. But again,
they did, and I don't know if that was classified as electric or not. I know the i3 is classified as electric with a range extender, which is weird. I don't know why it's not considered a plug-in hybrid.
Very weird to me. Okay, so can we just talk about rotaries for a minute? There's a couple things and here's the preconceived notions you mentioned, and these are the positive attributes: small packaging, smooth operation. Yes. Right. So for those that don't know, there is no piston on a rotary engine. There are effectively 3 chambers, and as it looks like a triangle, it moves around within this kind of an octagon, and it'll flip one. It'll rotate its axis. So one side of the triangle is a cylinder when it's against the cylinder wall. You could just the wall of the block, and then pow, spark plug goes off, and it pushes it and it rotates it to the next side. Now the right side or left side of that thing is now on. And so as this thing is spinning around in the housing, that's how it operates. So because there's counterweights and things like that. If you see the crankshaft on a rotary engine, it's a stub. I mean, it's basically 2 lobes. You can do a 3 and 4 rotor, and if you come into the drift world, which I've spent a lot of time nerding out in, you'll see these guys will just go, you know what? Let's just make a 4 rotor, and they'll take this cast and they'll get a billet block, and they'll just start stacking these things.
Yeah, you can stack one rotor on top of another rotor on top of another rotor. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
And so for the space of a traditional V6 engine, you could have a 4-rotor rotary engine in there. Now, there's tons of turbo piping because turbocharging really makes those things talk. And they really respond well to that. But you've got, 1,000 to 1,500 horsepower in a race application all day long. And it's like, oh,
yeah,
you know what? Let's put another rotor on. Okay. You just find more room and you put it in. So that part is really interesting. The tricky part is on a traditional gas engine, you have what's called a piston ring. And that's what seals the piston against the cylinder wall and maintains compression through operation. So in a rotary, you have what's called a apex seal.
Yes, the notorious apex seal.
Yes. And this is on each point of the triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And so
they're going to go bad.
They're going to go bad, right? It doesn't matter if you make them out of graphite or you make them out of titanium or tungsten. They go bad eventually, okay?
It's an inherent design flaw. Curious to see if they've solved that.
Right. And so this gets back to our discussion we had offline the other day, Craig, was what is the genuine engineered life cycle for the car? What is the intended life cycle?
Yeah.
And my question on this is, and now keep in mind, there's someone at Mazda, I'm not sure who it is. I love Mazda. I'm not trying to rip on them here, but someone's convinced that this is a viable application for the masses. It is not in its high volume applications. It's not. It is in bespoke sports cars. They're very special, but they're very finicky and demanding and require an owner that really wants that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they exist, but they should not be in the Mazda 6. They should not be on their own, at least.
Yeah.
Okay. They should, because say this generator goes out on your MX-30, you can still plug the thing in the wall and charge it overnight and drive it as an electric car. So,
sure.
And maybe that's why they're trying it again. I'm very intrigued by it, but I'm very hesitant to think that this is a great idea just based on the last 40 years of it not working very well. So they have problems of overheating. Look, you can take a 1.3 liter rotary and it will require the same volume as a V8 engine will for cooling applications. It will require a turbo to make real power and real torque. And then it will also require apex seals or really a rebuild every, depends on use, right? That's a variable thing. But so I'm reserved, but I'm very excited about it because I feel like this is something that Mazda is also very excited about. They wouldn't be doing this if they didn't feel like it had merit. So let's see what it does, and let's patiently wait. Let's see if it's found its place.
It will be quite interesting. Here's some things we do hope, or at least I hope. I hope Mazda will get some of their engaging to drive factor back, because you and I both know the electric world needs it.
Oh, yeah.
And Mazda needs it a little bit. So it'd be nice for them to get that back. I'm a little nervous about their horsepower and torque numbers. That high torque number makes me think they're engineering it to what we didn't like in some other Mazdas recently.
Well, hold on. That torque number is pretty well, but it's also just an electric motor. It's just what they do. Yeah,
it's true. But so we'll see. You're right. Maybe I have to do that.
Yeah. But again, to your point, that's been my beef with Mazda recently. So let's just see what happens.
And then two more things. I'm really excited that the good news about the small battery is, and we've talked about the merits and all ad nauseum, all the crazy science behind batteries and numbers and kilowatt hours. This was a small battery. Here's what's good about a small battery. They charge quick.
Yes.
And so early thoughts on this, with the quick charging system, this thing could charge in like literally an hour and a half.
Wow.
You're back in business. Also means that rotary might actually work and not be much of a nuisance. That'll be intriguing.
That also means two other things, Craig. It means that it's going to be cheaper to replace when it does go bad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And like you just said, lighter. And so you alluded to a minute ago, and maybe I'm setting myself up for a letdown. Mazda makes good driving cars when they want to. Yep. And they've proved it their entire life cycle. Up until just recently, they've had a change in focus. Mm-hmm. And they've made excellent cars, but they're not really driver's cars anymore. Right. The Miata excluded from that. So I'm wondering if this they may just not be able to help themselves. They might just make a fun car on accident, and I hope it works out that way, because the electric car world really needs that.
Electric car needs someone like this to make it right again. So we'll see. I say right again, to make it right at all.
Right.
last thing I hope we see, and I noticed this in the interior shot, and I don't know if this is just pre-production concept. Will it make it into production? But I hope it does. If you looked in the center stack, the center console that goes in between both seats, the front seat, the driver's seat, and the passenger seat.
Mm-hmm.
Normally it's black plastic, or it's some piano black, and the cup holders in that area and that kind of crap, right? I don't know if you noticed, but there is cork there.
No way. I didn't see that. No, I didn't.
Yes, there was like cork inlaid in this little tray in between the seats. The reason that's cool, Brian, is because that's what Mazda used. That's what they started manufacturing pre-war was corks. Then that's where we get cork sport, that sort of thing. So that's what Mazda's known for. That's how they started as a company making corks. So
what a cool nod.
I thought that was pretty cool, pretty interesting. So I hope that continues. So I don't know.
That reminds me of the i3 as well, because the i3 has. Now, I don't think there's history to it, but they have bamboo on the dashboard as an option. And so it kind of alludes to these, it tells you it's different, but it doesn't have to be overly funky. And
right.
When hybrids first came out in their origins, the Prius had to look different.
Yes.
And then it had to set itself out in the market. But then it set the stage and benchmark that every other manufacturer felt like theirs had to look stupid as well. Or... And I'm like, no, just make it look like a car. And so the Insight Honda is, to me, the best one at being a hybrid that just looks like a car. So no one's going to have an optics problem with it. And some people want the image of a hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
That exists, but not everyone does. Some people just want the good hybrid part and don't want to be looked at, right? So Mazda's done the thing where, look, the i3 looks funky, but it is nice. Mazda, based on the design of the photos they put out, just looks nice. And probably is very nice. Simple as that. So I like that a lot.
Absolutely. Okay, so we got another car we want to talk about real quick. Not as much to talk about, so we'll make it brief. But Brian, we got the 2022 Honda Civic, the 11th generation. What information you got for us on that?
Okay, so this will be brief because there's not a whole lot to know about it. But actually today, the day of recording, they released some photos of it and what it's going to look like. So it's going to come to market first as a 22 model, but it will be available summer of 21, so this coming summer, and it will be available in a sedan-only version initially. A few months later, the hatchback will come out. And here's what's very interesting. The sedan is going to be built in Canada. It's going to be in Alliston, Canada, which is north of Toronto, so it's in the Quebec province. And there's an existing Honda motor plant there, and so they're really expanding their operations there to make globally the sedan, which is pretty cool. And then the hatchback that's coming out later in the summer is not going to be built there. It's not going to be built in Quebec or Canada. It's going to be built in the United States in Indiana.
USA.
So not only is the hatch, which is usually the better one, it's built in the States. Nothing against our Canadian friends. I'm sure the sedan's much more agreeable, warmer, and has better coffee. The hatchback will be fun at the bar, and we'll probably do burnouts for no reason at all. So really, actually,
and hold your big gulp.
And hold your big gulp, probably two of them. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, interesting. Now, you've seen some of the photos on it. They have released some of those, or we have some to see. Your thoughts on the looks of it?
Well, the rumored concepts that were out a few weeks ago looked a little better than the actual product. And my only hold up is the grill itself looks kind of like someone's got like an underbite, like on their top lip is like underbit, like it's tucked in, like the grill is tucked into the bumper. Kind of odd. But again, and we've talked about this a ton of times, the internet picture and when you see it in front of you, really hard to judge it. There's a lot of surface changes on it. I can tell in the pictures, which in person will probably look really good. So, the previous gen was a little wild and not really for me. But it at least was trying, and I appreciate that. This seems a little more sedate than the previous gen, a little more mature, and probably what people really want, although it's, it may not be as exciting to look at in terms of surface changes.
Yeah, you're being too nice. You think it's boring. I get it.
Yeah,
but here's the good news is I like it and you're going to like it better too, because It's cleaner. It looks like it's definitely cleaner lines. It's less busy. Not as much going on. More conservative. I think it looks, the best way to explain it, looks like a baby Accord. In fact, that's probably my only knock against it. They've almost too much. I don't like it when car manufacturers just make all their cars look smaller or bigger. Audi's bad about that. Some other people are bad about that.
Yeah, corporate grill. Yeah.
Yeah, just, no, make them different. Make them look different. I like that. I like it when they make them look different. So, but it does look cleaner. Looks more mature. So I'm excited about it.
I feel like its looks are easier to live with than the 10th gen. But I had the same problem. Look, the Accord looks awesome. I think the Accord looks really good for what, and it needs to, for what its market is. It looks mature and clean, and it's a car that looks better in person too. But I keep getting hung up on the grille on the Civic. That's what's messing me up. Although it looks like a small Accord, fine. Yeah. I don't think the Accord looks bad. I just think that grille looks a little funky, and we'll see if it plays out in person. I have a couple more rumors that I want to bring up in terms of specs. Okay. We don't have full specs. Honda says they'll announce everything on the 28th of April. So that'll come out soon. But for right now, what is rumored and what we think is going to happen is the 2-liter 4-cylinder will be the base engine.
Okay.
And a 1.5 turbo is expected to be an option. It's a world motor for them. Yeah, that's the one to get. We like that motor. We've driven it a couple times. Pretty happy with it. Yep. And this is rumored, not confirmed by Honda, but this has also been rumored by Honda. There will be no manual on the base model at all. So we're losing that. But
come on, Honda.
The manual will maintain in the SI and the R models. So it's not totally gone.
Well, it does make sense. I don't blame them.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is the cheap car now, no one cares about the transmission. No. The fun version wants the manual. At least they're keeping that around, or we hope they do.
That.
Yeah, I'll respect that.
Yeah, at least they give us something. Okay. Last tidbit I've got for that before we move on to the next segment, Fun with Comments.
Sure.
Brian, do you know the most interesting thing about this car debut so far?
No, I don't. I didn't know it was interesting.
That's what I'm here for. It is the first car ever in the history of ever and also the world.
Oh, okay.
To debut on Twitch.
On Twitch?
Yep.
No wonder I was an hour behind. I do know what Twitch is.
Okay.
I do.
Just checking.
Well, while we're bringing up pointless facts, one more pointless fact about the Civic, Craig. The Civic Warp Tour, whatever they do a concert tour series for the Civic. It's coming back with a new Civic. It's been canceled because of COVID, and they've brought it back, but they're bringing it back virtually.
Well, very good. So I don't know what the Warp Tour is. You don't know what Twitch is. Let's move on to Fun with Comments.
Okay, great.
Okay. Do you want to go first, or you want me to go first on Fun with Comments?
I'll go first.
Okay, so before you go, real quick.
Okay.
Fun with Comments is... we get a lot of fun, interesting comments on our videos, sometimes on Facebook, sometimes on YouTube, all over social media.
We have the best. We have the best fans, is what you're saying, Craig.
We have the best. Some of them are critical and helpful.
They are.
Some of them are just entertaining. Some of them are just off, way out in left field, and you have no idea where it came from. And so we sometimes we share them on here. So maybe y'all can help us out. So. Anyways, that's what this is about. I don't know what Brian has. We don't share these beforehand so that we can just for fun. Go ahead, Brian. What do you have for us?
Okay, so if we have overlap in our comments, we've got a ringer in the corner that we both know we haven't used, so we're covered. Mine are short and sweet. So the first one is referencing the off-road adventure we did in Hidden Falls.
Oh, I think I know it's... Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I bet I can guess.
We make jokes about modifications, how, obviously like on a Honda Civic, more decals equals more horsepower. Spoilers are like 30 horsepower. Dual exhaust is definitely like 80 horsepower, right? So these are all factual, objective things.
Yes.
So we talked about, in the review, about the mods on the Raptor and really, how much more capable it was because of the mods I put on it. And someone caught on to that, and I think it's the first person to actually comment on it. This is from John Madsen, and he cracked me up. Simple. 2 light bars equal 1 locker. And for those that don't know, a locker is a mechanical locking device for the differential. It's really helpful. It's actually a really big deal for off-roading. So basically, this guy's making fun of my lights, and I love it. It cracked me up. I got a good laugh out of that.
That's pretty good.
And I have a second one. I went with 2 this time, Craig. This is on the walk around of the Vet C8, and pretty simple. It's from Eric Meyer. Very insightful, very deep comment, but he really got me to the core. Dude, you don't fit in that car. And I'm glad he told me. I was wondering why I've had such a hard time with that car. Now I know, Craig. That's all it is. I just don't fit in it.
Well, see, again, informative, helpful, because it's not like you got in the car and could tell yourself if you fit it or not.
No, I didn't. I didn't know why my head was hitting the roof bar. I just
so
figured it was
helpful
something.
comment.
Yep.
In case you didn't know that, even though you sat in it, you don't fit in that car. So
no,
he's right.
He's right. Yep.
Yeah. That's good.
Anyways,
stuff.
a lot of cars, by the way.
Okay, so I've got two comments, but they kind of go together, and they're from the Shelby GT500 versus
Okay.
Mustang GT.
That was a fun video, by the way.
Fun video, one of our better ones, or better performing ones. So this was a few months ago, but we got to give it service. We got to give it due justice and time.
Sure.
So this is from Miranda, and says this. I can't believe this guy wants to compare a GT to an awesome, rare Shelby GT350. Like, what a freaking idiot, right?
Oh, yeah. She's not wrong, by the way.
Hilarious, because I think we even talked about in the video
Yeah, we
that
explained
it is an odd
thoroughly.
comparison. You wouldn't normally do this, but here's why. But that's okay, because we got a follow-up comment.
Okay.
And this is from LJJ lowercase r. The first three letters are all caps. I'm not real sure what's going on.
Oh, I thought it was LJJ uppercase R. I'm glad you clarified.
Right, yeah, small r at the end. So
Okay, got it.
to basically help Miranda out with this, because Miranda's still confused. Miranda's confused. Can't believe this guy.
Yeah.
Comparing a GT to an awesome, rare Shelby GT350. What's the deal, right?
Yeah, what's going on here? Right.
LJJR's got the answer. They are plumb dumb. So there you go.
Okay.
That's why we did it. It's
you know,
again, helpful, informative. The community's working with each other, and I thought that was nice to see people getting along and helping each other along the way. And so I thought I'd share that.
In a world of polarization, I'm glad to see people come together on our videos, Craig. It warms my heart. And I'm also glad that they paid attention to the part where we said these are priced the same, and that's why we're reviewing them that way. And by the way, we had a similar comment on the C8 video regarding mentioning the GT500 at the same time. So it's fun. I love those. Those crack me up.
Yep. Do you want to share the wild card, or do you want to save that for another day?
Let's save that one. That's a fun one. Craig, it's my favorite comment of the year, and I think it's going to be the best comment of the year. And at the end of this year, let's recap and let's ask that question. That's
what we're going to do.
We'll
Decided right here on the fly, producing on the fly.
Okay, there you go.
There's going to be a comment of the year round, or at the end we'll have to just do a recap and maybe a sweet tournament style it. And whoever wins we're going to get them something good.
We'll send them some merch or something. We'll think of something fun.
Yeah, maybe we'll get them on the podcast. That'd be awesome.
So, there you go.
But yeah, we got an early leader in the clubhouse. Some of these the ones tonight are definitely contenders. They'll be in the tourney. So congratulations to all those people that commented. And if you haven't commented yet, make sure you comment, because you could be the winner. So lots of fun there.
Totally.
With that, Brian, I think we've got a wrap. That's the show. And don't say anything. I think I've got this now. Okay.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
Thanks for watching.
Yep.
And check us out on BrakeCheckShow.com to find out where we're at on social media, and follow us on all those places. And with that, have a nice day.
That's it. One last thing to add. You're welcome, Stephen. That's it.
Okay. See ya.